will now stick to diversity and the power of bicycles for all. And I'm delighted to welcome two experts who are passionate about the cycling culture. Both work for Shift Active Media. Wayne Brown is a media expert with more than 25 years of experience, who is the CEO of Shift. And Rachael Burnside, she's the head of marketing and growth, also working for Shift Active Media, and is, in addition to that, the founder of Uplift, the Women in Cycling Industry Mentorship Program. Please give them both a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, thanks for being here. We're here today to talk about unlocking the power of the bicycle for all, and with a particular emphasis on how grassroots movements are actually making cycling a more diverse and welcoming culture. My name, as you've heard now actually, is Wayne Brown. I'm the CEO of Shift, and this is my colleague, Rachael Burnside, who is head of marketing and growth at Shift. So I guess the first thing to probably answer is, what is Shift? Very briefly, it's a data-driven marketing agency dedicated to cycling and the great outdoors. We offer a range of services: upstream, consulting, research, strategy, and then activation in PR, media, creative, and social. We're very fortunate. We work with some of the world's greatest brands: Rafa, Zwift, Continental, Orbea, Wahoo. And we do that all around the world, even though we're based in Bath in the UK. So that's Shift. I guess that was us as an agency, but I guess why us too as individuals? And I think we're fully aware, even though myself as a black man working in cycling and Rachael as a woman, we know that that doesn't automatically qualify us to be experts on this subject. And so when we were given this opportunity, we kind of instantly thought about actually what we could do here is shine a light on some amazing organizations that we've been fortunate to come across in the course of our role. So that's what we're going to spend most of our time doing today. But before we get into that, I do just want to kind of share with you, I guess, some context. Now, the first thing to say is we've got a few data points here, but the reality is there's a really limited amount of data on the subjects that we're going to talk about at a global level. And I think that speaks to the emphasis or the importance that is placed on it by, I guess, the cycling industry, or even, I guess, broader at a government level. So there isn't that much data. But what data there is, and some of it is collected by a really great organization that I'm sure you guys will be aware of, People for Bikes. They're the kind of providers of this first piece of data. And essentially, actually, interestingly, when we looked at this, we had to look at it twice to say, is this what we kind of experience in our lives? And actually, if you look at participation amongst all cyclists in the US, it's actually spread quite evenly. There's a slight emphasis on male cyclists, but it's kind of spread quite evenly. But then when you dip down into the data and go a little bit deeper, actually, you can find that the actual number of cycling trips taken are men far outweigh women in the same data set, 67% to 24%. And interestingly, that plays out the same in the UK, where we've got 77 to 23%, and then also in Germany as well, although it's slightly more positive there, a bit more of an even balance. So when it comes to the amount of cycling done, it's clearly that men tend to do the majority of cycling versus women. And then looking, I guess, at ethnicity as another area, I think, again, referencing the same data set for People for Bikes, we see that in terms of indexing against the general population, white cyclists over-index, and then black cyclists under-index. And actually, when you then look at core cyclists, and for that means people who are cycling more than 4 times a month, that disparity widens again with a kind of 63% under-index for core cyclists who recognize themselves as black. So that's just there's a lot more richness to that data, so I would urge you to go and look at that set. One of the things that struck me was actually then when you look at who over-indexes in this study, then it's people who are postgraduate and those earning more than 100,000 a year. So I think you can sort of deduce from that data there's not a particularly inclusive environment when it comes to cycling. And then perhaps even more starkly is when you look at the question of faith. And this data is from London, so sorry, it's quite specific. but only 1% of all London travel, sorry, only 1% of Muslims travel by bike in London, which is obviously a staggeringly small number. But then when you also look at how many of those are women, it's actually 86% of those journeys are made by men. So, it's almost a kind of negligible number are made by Muslim women in the UK, in London. And then finally, I think perhaps a topic that gets overlooked, it's something that I've only recently sort of come across in another role that I play, looking at disability. And actually, on the face of it, it looks quite positive because, there's quite a lot of people who have a limited disability or even a really limiting disability actually doesn't lag that far behind as a percentage of the population. This is, again, UK data. That are cycling or classify themselves as cycling at least once a month. But when you actually then think about the potentially transformative power on somebody who has mobility issues to tap into cycling, then actually there's a reason for that number to be equal or if not higher, because it can have such a transformatory effect on disabled people's lives. So that's definitely one that we would say is something that we'd like to see improve. So that's the data, and we're conscious that we could go into real depth. There's a lot of studies been done onto what are the barriers, what is causing that prevention, what are the issues at play, which some of them are quite deep-rooted and fundamental, but we don't have time to really get into that, and actually there are people who are probably better qualified to do that than us. So what we wanted to look at was those people, as we've said, who actually don't accept the status quo, who are prepared to pour lots of personal energy and effort and time into changing the cycling culture, and to do that in their own individual way, and in touching a number of important communities that were brought out in the data that we've got there. So to introduce them to you, we've got a video.
Yeah, really cool to hear. Oh. Can you hear it?
Dissolves this universe. I see you the same eyes. There's a fire in our heart. Maybe this faith is all I need. This faith is all I have.
So now we're going to shine a little bit of light on the organizations that we showed you in that video there. So first one up is All Bodies on Bikes. So if you're aware of them or if you're not, but what All Bodies on Bikes stand for is sort of highlighting that all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides should be celebrated. So this organization I spent quite a bit of time chatting to over the past couple of months, and how it came to be was that the founder had been really keen to take on cycling. She joined a couple of groups that she found in the US, and actually every time she just felt it wasn't really for her. She wasn't comfortable in Lycra. There was a large percentage of the team were men, and actually she thought, this isn't for me, but I still really, really want to cycle, and there's got to be more plus-size women like me. So they went on to set up All Bodies on Bikes, and alongside having the community groups and the rides and stuff like that, their big thing that they did was really focus on body confidence. So with the funding that they got from Shimano, they did a lot of content. They put on a lot of webinars for the women that joined the groups to say, actually, you just need to be confident in your body, full stop, whether you're on the bike or whether you're not. If you're confident off bike, when you get on that bike, you'll know that you're powerful. And I think one of the things that I really loved from speaking to them was like, what they're saying is like, all bike rides should be celebrated, and pushing your bike up a hill is not a bad thing, but from the groups that they'd gone to, that was absolutely frowned upon, and everybody was talking about speed and KOM. So they've been fortunate enough to get funding from Shimano to allow them to sort of push that message out there and say, yes, even if you're plus size, it doesn't mean that you cannot ride a bike. Cycling's for everyone. And latterly, Feisty Media, who focus on highlighting women's sport, have started to sponsor their podcast. So again, just continuing to get that out there. So yeah, really great chatting to them and learning more about what they do.
I'm conscious that the timer is ticking down, so Wheels for Well-Being. These are a disabled group. They focus on the transformative power that cycling can have amongst the disabled community. They really focus on 3 different areas. One, which is like supporting people with coaching in the local community. They aim to touch 1,000 cyclists and help them in London. 2, actually campaigning and lobbying for infrastructure changes and making sure disabled issues are right at the, or requirements are right at the heart of any lobbying that is done. And then thirdly, just to raise awareness. And I think what's powerful about these guys is that they say if we design around disabled needs, there's like, in terms of their cycling, then we will have cycling that is right for everybody. So almost like starting in that place will improve things for everyone. The second one, really changing things, is about faith. And these brothers on bikes started out really organically, just about 10 guys who were on a WhatsApp group, and they added a friend who added a friend who added another friend. And over time, they've been able to grow into over 1,000 people that are part of this group. It's centered around their Muslim faith. And they have get-togethers, they have local chapters, they've got their own kit. And as you can see, they get together, they have a eat, they have a good time, and then they ride bikes, and then they also kind of respect each other's faith. And that has led to actually one of their group podium for the first time in Britain as an Asian cyclist. So actually now they've formed a race team as well. So a really positive impact there.
Yeah. And then in similar vein, we've got Cycle Sisters. Cycle Sisters, obviously, for cultural and religious reasons, cannot join a group like Bob. So they've gone on and they've created their own group that is enabling Muslim women to ride bikes. And people might say, well, why didn't they just join a women's group? Well, actually, due to sort of their religion and their culture and the sort of big focus on modesty, actually, like wearing lycra and joining a group like that just wasn't something that they felt comfortable with. So they created Cycle Sisters, and we've been working alongside them and Rachael, one of our clients, over the past 2 years to work alongside Cycle Sisters to develop the Modest range, which launched a couple of weeks ago. There's 3 pieces. They were fundamental in making sure that range happened and what that product looked like. And now they're the face of the women's campaign. So it's not even a Modest campaign. It's just like, we're running a women's campaign and you guys will be front and center of this, demonstrating the new products to, again, allow cycling to be more accessible for women of faith. And then again, conscious of time, but just quickly on London Riders. So they are the first LGBTQ road cycling group. And their sort of point of difference was that they realized that they needed to create a closed environment for their members. So much of their life had been battling how they were feeling and being discriminated against, but they were keen to cycle, but needed to do something where it was just them. So British Cycling got involved, provided funding, which allowed for the London Riders to create closed groups at key velodromes, invite people along where everybody was part of that community. So any stigma that they would have sort of had outside of even just cycling was removed. And that then allowed them to use that money to promote what they're doing even further, so that people in that community can feel that cycling can be for them. And then power in numbers, they have grown to be more confident to go out, to go on the road and get over some of the barriers that stop them even getting on a bike.
And then finally, Bahati Foundation, founded by a former, well, actually current competitive cyclist in the US. He's from Compton, LA. And I guess they're all about promoting it within that community, underprivileged inner city communities. And they do something that really inspires us, which is the great annual giveaway, where they actually, backed by brands, Zwift have been involved, Giant have been involved, they've given away hundreds of bikes in the community to show people that the power, or that actually engaging in cycling can have a positive effect on their lives. So we've talked about 6 amazing groups that really inspire us. So what are we doing? And I guess that was a question that we asked ourselves after listening to Rachael, who said, just start on your own patch. Do something that's close to you. And so as a result of that, Rachael was inspired to create Uplift. And I guess that's one of the things that we are doing.
Yeah, so for those of you that are not familiar, a year ago we created Uplift. So that's the Women in Cycling Industry Mentorship Program. It was born at EUROBIKE with some of the team from the Women in Cycling panel, who you're going to see next. But we realized that there was a gap between the up-and-coming talent within the cycling industry being able to get access to women who'd already paved the way within the industry. And due to our connections and the brands that we worked with, we knew that we had a group of people who could definitely help that talent. So we went about creating the program. We are nearly a year old. We have had 20 mentors, 40 mentees come through the program. We've hosted 5 live events, which have had over 600 people join. A split of like 50-50 men and women, which is amazing. That's absolutely what we want. And there's been amazing conversations that we've had while we've been here. So we're hoping that the Only Way is going to be bigger and better for the program. So just finally, what can you do? Well, if you are passionate about something in particular and you really want to change the status quo, then do something that is within your power. But if you can't actually go on to create something yourself, like we've talked about 6 amazing organizations that are doing stuff, there's plenty more right there. Like if you can dedicate a little bit of your time, a bit of your skill set, then please, like we urge you to get in touch with these organizations and just help them raise their game so that it just becomes a more open conversation around cycling being for absolutely everybody.